1. Hey, everybody in the LinkedIn land and Facebook land and Twitter land and YouTube land. This is Michael Goldberg. We're kicking off a little early, the LinkedIn Live lunch hour. Today, I've got a great guest. His name's Seth McCauley, and he's the Vice President of Human Resources with Kirby Smith Machinery. And in a few minutes, we'll get to him. Today, we're going to be talking about HR, recruiting, the challenges that exist there. And so we encourage you to share that we're live and certainly send your comments, ask them through the LinkedIn feed so that we can answer those questions for you. And certainly during the replay, if you have questions, I'll be checking those, and we can certainly answer those when they come in later today. So Seth, welcome to the broadcast.
Thanks for having me, Michael.
Sure. So this is your first LinkedIn Live broadcast, right?
This is my first LinkedIn Live broadcast. I've done
you were
podcasts and blogs and all kinds of things, but this is my first time on LinkedIn Live. So thank you for having me. Sure,
and this is a first for me because you're the first HR executive that I've had on the show, and look forward to many more. But so a first on both sides, which is great.
Well, and also I think this is probably the first time you've had to have someone go mobile on you. Things. So we got all kinds of firsts happening today.
There you go. And it does look good. The Social Live app looks good on you. So it's all good. He's broadcasting live from his truck outside where he works. That's a longer story. So Seth, why don't you open up? Tell us a little bit about what you do, who Kirby Smith Machinery is, and we'll kind of walk through there.
Sure. So I am the Vice President of Human Resources at Kirby Smith. Kirby Smith is a heavy equipment dealer who is based in Oklahoma City. We've got 12 locations across Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri. We're the largest Komatsu dealer in the nation. So the stuff that we sell and rent and service is what I call the big toys. So these are the big cranes and excavators and dozers and wheel loaders. This is not the stuff that, if you need to go dig a small ditch in your backyard over the weekend, this is not the kind of stuff that you're going to be renting. This is the big equipment that a lot of subcontractors and general contractors and DOTs are leasing and purchasing for big projects. We've been in business since 1983, so family owned and operated, and so I live in Dallas, but my office is technically in Oklahoma City, so I spend a lot of my time up there. Today I'm at our Dallas branch, and I don't have a dedicated office, and it is filled up today. So I didn't have a private space, so I'm here in my truck today. And in terms of me, I've been with Kirby Smith for this Friday will be my 1-year anniversary, as a matter of fact. So,
congrats.
So I'm excited. I've been here for 1 year. It's been a wild ride. It's been great. The word I like to think that comes to my mind when I think about what I'm doing and what I'm trying to do is transformation. So really kind of just think about HR transformation. How do we level up? That's the term I use internally with organizations. Like we've got a lot of great processes in place and a lot of good tools in place, but how do we take it to the next level? We're about 575 employees today, continuing to grow. We're going to continue to grow. And so a lot of the things that I'm focused on are how do we scale for that growth? And that includes, from a recruiting standpoint, from an HR standpoint, from an engagement standpoint, what are the tools that we're using today? What are some of the new tools that we could be using tomorrow to just get better? So,
are you focusing in on sales folks, or what's the primary people that you bring into the organization, or what the organization is made up of?
Yeah, great question. So about half of our organization are what we call internally service technicians, but to the outside world, they would be diesel mechanics. So these are hourly diesel mechanics that are out there turning wrenches in our shop, out in the field, servicing the pieces of equipment that we have. So again, probably about half. We get about 235 technicians in our workforce, and that workforce just a lot of people may know this, but you may not. That skilled labor workforce today in the country is tough to find. It's tough to find really good people, and it's tough to hang on to really good people. So recruiting and retention is certainly one of the primary focuses for me. Has been since I got here, but this year specifically, I'm partnering with some folks internally to create a technician recruiting and retention plan that's going to help us find ways to attract and recruit that talent, but also how to keep that talent that we have.
Absolutely. So we got and I was waiting for it. Chuck Vanderweel, who's a friend of mine, says Dallas needs help with the Leaning Tower of Dallas.
It's so funny. I saw that on something came across a news alert, and I didn't think much of it until yesterday. I drove right past it. In fact, I was at a stoplight, and I snapped a picture and a little video of it. It was right there, and I was watching that little demolition ball kind of just chipping away at it, and it's fascinating. That's actually in my neighborhood. I live in Uptown, and it's right there. And for the life of me, I can't even remember what that building was, but it is.
It's the old affiliated computer. Have you lived here long?
About 10 years, but I'm kind of new to Uptown, so I haven't.
Well, it was the old affiliated computer services building,
really,
and and they're building. Have you seen what they're building there? They're building like a whole new little Uptown, an extension of Uptown in that area. So
really,
it's going to be pretty cool. So
okay.
Let's kind of go back to that skilled labor. So Lara Pearson says it's tough to retain those specialized candidates, and as you mentioned, it's tough to hire them. So, what are some of the ways that you don't have a recruiting team? We talked about this before we went live. That it's
you're looking at the recruiting team, and we now in all fairness, we do have some people on the operations side that help with veteran, reaching out to veteran groups. We have some partnerships with some of our trade schools like TSTC down in Waco and OSU IT in Oklahoma. And we'll do career fairs and things like that. But in terms of banging the phones and doing phone interviews and phone screens and digging into our ATS and actively going out and headhunting and things like that doesn't exist today. So I mean, you're looking at it. It's
right.
Me.
So when you're out there and because you have to probably with the specialized candidates, you probably have to go through a lot of candidates to find the one. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah. There's a lot of noise out there. So there's a number of different things we do. We do have kind of a handful of partnerships with some industry headhunters and search firms that we use that have got those relationships. We've obviously, like I mentioned, we've got these feeder programs at TSTC and OSU IT that can help us bring in interns or kind of on-the-job trainees that will sign up for a 2-year stint with us. And so they'll work for us for 7 weeks in the shop, and then they'll go back to school for 7 weeks, work for us for 7 weeks, go back to school for 7 weeks. And so we have that program. We do have an employee referral program that I'd love to. I wish it was more active, to be honest with you. I'd love to pay our people all day long for bringing in good talent.
So that's a good question. Is there work to be done on advertising it? Is it just not enough to incent people to refer, or?
Yeah, those are good questions. That's that's kind of some of the stuff that keeps me up at night. I don't know why we're not plussing that out more. Some of it I think is just awareness. We just got to keep it top of mind, and so I'm doing some things internally to help with that. We did kind of do a rebrand of it middle of last year. Made sure we had flyers sent out to all the locations, and we blasted that on email. We are starting a employee newsletter that's going to be coming out here in the next few weeks. So we're going to do a quarterly newsletter, and so that'll be another platform to highlight successes and to remind people like, hey, we've got this program, you can earn some money. And so I think it's just one of those deals where I think when they don't hear it, when they don't see it, it's not top of mind. And so we just got to keep the word out there. So that's I think the key is just awareness.
It is about awareness and and reinforcement and thanking those that referred people into the organization, letting their name stand out a little bit. We had to do kind of a relaunch when I was working with a healthcare client last year. We rebooted the referral program, and actually once we rebooted it and set some fairly good guidelines, because there weren't really guidelines to begin with, and people were all over the place, and just made the payouts consistent, broadcasted. We ended up really paying out well. We saw easily like a 30% increase after doing that, and it's getting people. It's almost like it's a message similar to what like Glassdoor has when you ask, would you refer a friend?
Right.
Or would you recommend the CEO? That you need to get the pulse on that to make sure, because if people aren't referring people in for one reason or the other, it's going to be HR job in recruiting to kind of find out the why behind that.
There's a root cause there, right? So you got to kind of sniff that out and figure out, okay, if people aren't referring, then is there something going on internally that we need to address and figure out, if there's a reason for that, there's a driver for that. But good point.
Absolutely. So what are some of the tools that you're using to, like, how many what's the average number of openings there? Let me ask you that.
Good questions. It's maybe hard to answer that because a lot of our positions are evergreen, so they're always going to be out there, right? So we're always going to be kind of posting for these service technicians or the mechanics at a lot of our locations. I'd say, generally speaking, we typically have about 20 openings. But again, keep in mind we've got a lot of these openings. Like if you were to go to our website, you'd see a service technician opening for I think every one of our locations pretty much. But then we've got some, we have parts people, we have rental people, we've got a couple sales positions, we got other things, but probably I'd say 15 to 20 is probably on average. And the other side of that is the turnover side, right? So I mean, this is traditionally a very high turnover position. I mean, in 2019, our turnover just for the technician position alone was 30%.
Wow.
So that doesn't help matters, and some of that, I mean, I'm a big believer that, there is such a thing as good turnover, and sometimes you need to turn some of those people over. But when you're losing the really good ones that have been there for a long time, you really got to look at, okay, what's going on there. But what we see too often, in my opinion, is people that leave within, I mean, literally within 6 weeks. I mean, they'll come on and then something happens, and within 6 weeks they're gone, and it's like, ouch.
Have you gotten to the root cause of why people are leaving after 6 weeks?
We've got some. That's some of the analysis that we're doing now. We're really digging into some of that data to understand kind of what's driving that. Is it happening at specific locations? I mean, all the way down to, is it happening with specific managers? So we are doing some things. I don't want to totally shift gears, but it is kind of related. One of the initiatives that we had and that we're doing right now is so safety also rolls up to me. So I've got HR and safety. And I partnered with my safety director to create a manager training. We hadn't really done something like this before, and we have created a 1.5 day course where we bring managers in the business into Oklahoma City for a 1.5 days, and we'll spend half the time focused on safety, and half the time focused on HR. And the whole idea there is that if we can build the capability of our managers and make them better managers and better leaders of people, then my hypothesis is that that's going to help the retention, because I'm a big believer in the idea that people don't leave companies, they leave managers. And I think if we can improve our managers and build their capabilities, that's going to help shut the back door, so to speak, on the retention front. And so that's the idea. And so, over the course of this year, the plan is to get at least 50% of our managers through this training course and get them trained up.
So are you putting together the training course, or are you bringing in people?
No, we built it from scratch.
That's awesome.
Yeah, literally, me and my safety director, my HR manager, we put together the content. I facilitate the HR piece of it. He facilitates the safety piece of it. I mean, it is. I mean, we're going old school. We just put it in a deck, and we got a couple videos sprinkled throughout it. But we bring them in, and we sit them down, and and the first session we had a few weeks ago went fantastic. And next week I'll be in Oklahoma City doing our second session. So the plan is to do this every month.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I think it's also good for, like if you have a supervisory development program, maybe to take that and extend that towards those that you've kind of looked at who could become possible supervisors or managers down the road. You may want to include them just to give them a taste of what they can expect. That way they come in instead of waiting for them to become managers before they go through that training. Just a thought. Just a thought.
Hey, real quick, hey Michael, real quick. I'm noticing when I look at your screen, I can't see your face. I'm hoping that's just me.
They can see both of us.
Okay, all right. I just want to make sure.
Thank you. Yeah. So a few comments here. People are definitely agreeing with you. That references would be gold. That's from Lara. I think you said it, Seth or Chuck Vanderweel said, what's the number one reason your technicians are leaving? And it sounds like people are leaving because it's just not. Is that the number one reason? Managers? Is that
no. Okay, that's a whole nother. We can get into a whole nother topic here. The number one reason that we're being told is better opportunity. And again, and this is this market here is tough. I mean, these, and I don't want to paint too broad of a brushstroke here, but a lot of times, very similar to like the hospitality space or other kind of high turnover or retail environments. A lot of times people will leave, for small things, right? So 50 cents more an hour, $1 more an hour, things that, most folks, wouldn't, but in certain places, like for example, Odessa is a very, very tough place for us. I don't know if you've ever been out there, if you spent much time out there, but it's like the Wild West out there. I mean, you've got the oil fields out there. You've got, I could be saying this wrong, but I think McDonald's starts off at like $18 an hour. I mean,
they make real money.
It's tough out there. And so when you got, all these other competing businesses trying to bring talent in, it makes it hard to find real people. Makes it hard to find real good people and keep real good people. But I will also, here's the other thing. This is kind of my hot sports opinion here on kind of why people leave in HR. Traditionally, a lot of people will say, well, what does the exit interview data tell you? And the reality is we have not been doing exit interviews for quite some time. Nobody's fault. There's no real reason for that. But I'm not a big believer in exit interviews. I'll just put that out there. I think if they're done properly, if they're done timely, if they're done the right way, I think you can get good information from exit interviews. By and large, I don't know that happens a lot. I think a lot of times what you hear from employees is they'll tell you what they think you want to hear.
Definitely.
As opposed to the truth. I'm really more interested in stay interviews or retention interviews. In fact, I'll kind of do a shameless plug here, but I'm going to be speaking at the Oklahoma State HR Conference, OKHR, in April. Mm-hmm. And my topic is going to be all about stay interviews and the case for stay interviews. And again, not to totally ditch or bag on exit interviews. Again, I think if they're done the right way, you can get great data. But I think the problem is a lot of times they're not done the right way. And I actually, for me, I think the ideal model is doing both, right? So finding some way to get data from employees when they're leaving, but also during the course of employment, get feedback and information from employees in terms of a retention or stay interview. So,
yeah, my friend Lara says they worry about references if they tell the truth, and it's true. I mean, here's the fact: you're not going to change somebody's mind to stay, right? They're already checked out. Sorry, we're about to have loud barking if my dogs hear the mailman.
Okay.
Let's see. Here we go.
Wow.
So, oh my goodness. So we have to. This happened last week, so it's 2 for 2. Maybe I need to find another place. Well, that wasn't as long as he normally goes. So, so basically, I just think it's. I think I'm going to agree with you. You can do your exit interviews right, but in the long term, isn't it our job as managers to not let it get to that point?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I'm glad you. So yeah,
right.
This is a fascinating topic. I'm fascinated by this topic, right? So I think that for me, exit interviews by and large are very reactive. So somebody's already told us, hey, I want to break up with you. And here we are kind of on the back end going, hey, what can I do? What can I do? Why are you leaving? Why are you leaving? And I mean, not to make light of it, but it's kind of like a bad relationship that goes south, right? Hey, it's not me, it's you. Let's stay friends. All that kind of stuff, right? So it's like, so I don't know how often we're really getting the truth because, so many times, and I don't want to make this, I don't want to oversimplify this, but so many times that exit interview is with the HR person, and it's like on the last day. And so if I'm leading the organization, I'm sitting there thinking, okay, wait a minute. This meeting with HR is the only thing standing between me and happy hour. I really don't want to go out on a bad note. I really don't want to throw anybody under the bus. I don't want to burn any bridges. I don't know. It may not be totally great where I'm at. What if I want to come back? So when I'm asked all these questions about why you leave, am I really going to be honest? Am I really going to tell them the truth? Or am I going to kind of pencil whip it? Am I going to, okay, yeah, it's great. Just better opportunity, better money. Because I might want to come back. And so I just don't know that we get the real deal. And
yeah,
I don't know. I mean, again, I think there's ways to do it. I have heard, so one of the tools that we've explored is this, this company that does pre-exit interviews and post-exit interviews. So when someone has said that they're leaving, they get a link to take an exit interview that's like 2 weeks before their last day. And then 3 months after they've left, they follow up and do a post-exit interview. And to me, that's fascinating. Like I would be fascinated to see that, like the difference between, Johnny takes this exit interview 2 weeks before his last day, and then 3 months later. And I love to look at the difference there, right? So it's like, okay, are they, 3 months later, they're like, okay, I'm gone. I'm happy where I'm at. Let me tell you what's really happening there.
Is the intention to try to lure them back?
Could be.
It
could be. It could be. Hey, we want to really find out what the real deal is. It could be a re-recruitment strategy, right? So a lot of times people leave and they think the grass is going to be greener, and maybe it's not, right? So maybe 3 months down the road, they're like, man, I really thought this was going to be great, and it's just this is not what I thought it was going to be. And man, if there's an opportunity to come back, I'd love to. And so maybe it's an opportunity to. So I don't know. I had never seen that before, or heard that before, and I thought that was fascinating. So
you guys have started using them?
What's that?
Have you started using them?
No. We're so I'm working with my general service manager right now. We're putting together a proposal plan in place for technician recruiting and retention, and this is a vendor that we've looked at, and we're throwing this into the mix as a possible solution. So we might, we've done the demo, we've explored them, but we're not using them today. But I'm fascinated by the concept.
Oh yeah, no, you definitely be able to pull some good data points. Another suggestion, which is kind of non-HR, would be start the happy hour before they go into the exit interview with HR. So you're feeding them drinks, you get them loose. Let's see if they start talking now.
Yeah, maybe we just do like a lunch. Hey, it's gonna happen.
A liquid lunch. Yeah.
Let's just do a farewell lunch. We'll get you all liquored up, and then we'll ask you all these questions.
We're going to ask you a ton of questions, but I think we do wait until it's too late to really ask. And I mean, even what are your thoughts on the engagement surveys? Because they're good, and I understand why they do them. Mm-hmm. But do you find that those are helpful in certain ways, as long as leadership and the managers and everybody is following up and acting on them?
Yeah, another good question. I will. I had one more thought. I wanted to just add one more thing about the exit interviews before we break off of that ongoing engagement. I was going to talk about counter offers. I was just going to say, like you said, right. So by the time you get to an exit interview, it's kind of too late, right? The train's already left the station, and And I can tell you, in my 23 years of doing HR, I've seen like probably less than a handful of counteroffers actually like go well. Like usually counteroffers are usually a Band-Aid. It's like, it's a quick fix, but very seldom have I seen them actually like last very long, right? So it's like the issues, the real issue is going to come right back up, and while an increase in pay or amount of money might help fix it for a little while, the real issue typically is still there. So I'll bounce off of that and go to engagement.
Well, hold on. Before
Yep.
you do that, before you do it, we have a question. So Chuck Vanderweel says, do you have a tool where employees can anonymously submit feedback, both positive and negative? Like, is there a tool that Kirby Smith has, or have you considered using those tools? Do you think those tools are effective?
We don't have that in place today. But interestingly enough, it's kind of related, but this same vendor, the same tool that I was talking about that does the pre and post exit surveys, they also do kind of stay interviews, and they do kind of check-ins when somebody gets hired. But the other thing, and they have a bot, so they have a chat bot that employees interact with, and to do these surveys and these interviews. But they also have this anonymous bot that's out there where if employees have concerns, they can anonymously do them. So that could be a feedback mechanism, but it also could act as a employee hotline, an anonymous 24/7 employee hotline. So that is another feature of this tool that intrigues me, knowing that we've got some way out there, some tool out there that could collect feedback 24/7 of employees either have an employee relations issue that they want to anonymously bring to our attention, or just feedback, and maybe they don't want to put their name to it, but that could be a receptacle, if you will, for that.
Sure. So engagement surveys, what's your thoughts on those?
Yeah, I think overall, I think they're good. I think it's kind of like my views on exit interviews. They're only as good as what you do with the data. So like exit interviews, I mean, if you're doing exit interviews and your HR person is making notes and all this stuff, and they okay, thank you for your time, enjoy your happy hour, good luck with your life, and they take all these notes and they put them in a file folder and it goes into their desk and it just sits there.
No good.
Worthless.
Right.
Same with engagement, right? So if you go out and you send you do all this effort to get people engaged and take the survey, and the leadership team gets all this feedback, like, wow, this is really interesting stuff. Okay, let's move on. Like, if there's no action, if the leadership team is not committed to taking action, and there's a difference between taking action and feeling the need to like address every single concern. I think, obviously you can't address them all, and you can't say yes to everything. You can't say, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. But I think, you got to find the things that you can, number one, change, but also address, say, hey, thank you for your feedback on, we really appreciate the feedback that you gave us around filling up the water fountains with Coca-Cola instead of water. Really interesting. We'd love to do that, but here's why it's not going to work. Whatever, right? So, but you got to find a way to address the feedback that was given, even if you're not going to do something with it. At the very least, acknowledge it, address it. Ideally, say, hey, we're not able to do that, and here's why it doesn't fit in with our business plan, our business model, long-term strategy, whatever it may be. But the key is, taking action on the things that you can take action on. Finding out what's actionable. How do we create action plans? Ideally, finding ways to involve employees or create task force and get employees involved in being part of the solution. So
let's turn it to recruiting. So, recruiting is always on the hot seat. HR is always on the hot seat. What do you think's the biggest key for both recruiting and HR to do better at what we're hired to do? Because right now many people are saying, well, my recruiters aren't doing it, that's why we're going to agencies.
Yeah.
Or they're not getting candidates fast enough, or they're not engaging, or the candidate experience is crap. For HR, it's I don't want to go to HR. Everything's black and white, and blah, blah, blah. What are some of the things from your perspective as a leader that we can be doing to better ourselves?
Yeah. So for me, it comes down to, and this is whether you're talking about recruiting, whether you're talking about HR. For me, it's being an effective business partner. What I mean by that is, I've always held the position that the most effective HR partners actually spend time in the business. They understand the business. They can speak the language of the business. I think where a lot of HR, and when I say HR, I'm going to include recruiting in this. I think where a lot of HR people get it wrong is they've kind of got blinders on. They're really good with the HR stuff, and they can talk HR speak all day long and all of that. And I go to this SHRM conference and I do this, but they're not talking the language of the business. And so a perfect example of this, well, I will say perfect example. I think it was a good example. And when I came on board at Kirby Smith, I had one ask. I said, hey, what I want to do, I want to spend the first 60 days, my part of my onboarding, I don't want to do any HR. I know you're hiring me to do HR. You've got a team doing HR. They're going to keep doing it. I said, but I don't want to do any HR. I want to be in the business, learning the business. And they agreed to that. And so for the first 60 days, I essentially really had no HR responsibilities. My sole purpose in life was to spend time in the field learning the business. And so that was getting out to all the branches. I took overhead crane safety training. I went out on ride-alongs with salespeople. I was involved. I toured the shops. I mean, I was, spending time kind of understanding the business. What are the pain points? How do we make money? How do we lose money? What makes us profitable? What are our customers like? Who's our customers? And essentially what I kind of boil that down to is you got to develop street cred. If you don't have street cred with your business partners, with your operations leaders, there's always going to be this kind of us versus them, and this division. And I think they're always going to see kind of HR as a necessary evil, and HR as well, you guys aren't getting it done for me, and so I'm going to have to go find an outside partner, a third party, headhunter to get it done. And so I think the more that that we recruiters, HR, can be involved in the business, understand the business, speak the language of the business, that's I think where we're gonna make real headway. That's my opinion.
Spot on. I learned very early in my HR career through the late Tom Pond, who was a mentor of mine at the Dallas Central Appraisal District. And I was hired to talk about a bevy of interesting jobs, recruiting, payroll, and benefits. But he said, before you do any of that, you need to go and work and go out with these appraisers and experience what they experience, because it'll make it easier for you to recruit.
Yep.
It'll make it easier for you to build relationships, because now you're talking people's language. And I have done that ever since. And I've also had my teams do that too. And these are recruiters that have been there 3 or 4 years that were never even allowed to go to a trade show, or never went to a specific American Heart program, things of that nature. Mm-hmm. And it changed the perspective of them in their hiring manager's eyes. So in their stakeholders' eyes, as long as you're getting into the knowledge of the business, you understand the strategy, you understand where the HR and recruiting strategy are going to play into the bigger picture, you're going to be successful. And so I agree that's where a lot of them fall down, because a lot of them are just brought in to say, hey, go do HR, or hey, we need these positions filled yesterday. Yep. Get going. And my part of my onboarding is timeout. We're going to take at least a couple of weeks, if not a month, for me to really understand the business. So, thank you, Lara. Lara said, you were great to work with on the UT project. Thank you. Just a quick few hellos. Hello, Julia Cornelius. Nice to see you. Adam Posner, he says, I look and sound great. That's because he recommended I get the new equipment. So thank you, Adam, for that. And we've had Nick Livingston. Nick, he said, how do you document your stay or exit interviews? Do you want to touch on that question super quick just to go back to them?
Sure, I can. The short answer is today we don't, because they're not happening today. But in the past, and this is maybe part of the problem and why they weren't as very effective. I mean, the exit interview that we had been using prior to my arrival was, I want to say it was 4 or 5 pages, and it was hard copy, and it was to me that's too long. That's too much. Right. So there's probably a reason why it wasn't very effective. And so I think ideally, again, there's a lot of schools of thought out there around, when do you catch people? And I remember years ago when I was working for AT&T Wireless in Seattle, and I was the HR person for the HR organization, and this was like 2001. It's almost 20 years ago. I remember having this very conversation. We were trying to figure out what's the best way to get exit interview data. Do we send them something in the mail that they can send back to us? Do we do it over the phone? Do we do it? And this is obviously before Skype and Zoom and all that, but we're still struggling with, is it something that we do hard copy? Is it a phone interview? Is it in person? And we're still trying to figure out what's going to capture the bet. When are we really going to get the meat of the matter? And I don't know that there is a silver bullet. But in my mind, again, when I look at this one vendor, this one tool, finding a way to kind of capture that, electronically, digitally is to me probably the best, most effective way to do it. I think that, we're a mobile society now, and finding ways to capture people, even through text or online or something, a URL that they can take a quick survey, I think is going to be the best, in my opinion.
Absolutely. So when, last question before we kind of go through the rapid fire questions here, excuse me. What are some of the, things that you see from, did you do recruiting, or have you always been in HR?
Yeah, I did recruiting. So prior to this, short answer is yes. Just prior to coming here, I spent 2.5 years with McCarthy Building Companies, and I was the talent acquisition manager for them for the Texas region, and done recruiting kind of all throughout my HR career.
Yeah. So, what are some of the tools that you would like to bring on to Kirby Smith?
Well, we're actually in the process right now, as we speak, of implementing a new applicant tracking system. So there are some features within the new system that we don't have today that are going to be great. So some of those things include a pre-screen survey that we're going to be doing that we don't do today. That's going to help kind of weed out the applicants that come in. We're going to be including, there's a built-in tool through Skill Survey that is done through this ATS to get reference checks. So instead of the traditional, like, hey, give me 3 names and numbers and we have to go chase them down, it's kind of the onus is on the candidate to provide that information. And again, sends out through a URL, and we collect the data that way. So there's some things with the applicant tracking system, I think, that are going to help.
Who are you? Can I ask who you're going with?
We're moving to Hierology. Hierology is the applicant tracking system that we're moving to.
Not familiar. Do they specialize kind of in your industry, or?
I wouldn't say specialized, but they're certainly, they have a lot of clients that are in our space. My CFO and I were introduced to them about a year ago when we went to an AED conference in Chicago, which is the Association of Equipment Dealers. And that's how we got introduced to them. So several of their big customers are friendly competitors of ours. So I did a lot of exploring and a lot of kind of conversations with my peer groups to kind of find out how they worked. And so I think they do a lot of automotive dealerships. They do have some heavy equipment dealers like ourselves. So I wouldn't say it's a specialty, but they certainly they get us, and they understand our business. So
right. Well, and that's good. Right?
Yeah.
So Excuse me. So that's a first. I don't think I've ever sneezed on the air. So, well, this has been great. It always kind of goes by. We started a little bit early for those folks, so you can catch the replay to catch the first part of it. We started about 10 minutes early. So, now, any questions you want to ask me before we jump into the rapid fire? Are you good?
I think I'm good. I'm just curious. I'd be curious to know what prompted you to get this started? Because I think this is a relatively new endeavor for you, and I love it. And I love what you're doing. But what was the tipping point for you?
So since last, and I appreciate that question. So since last August, I've decided to put myself out there in different forms on the platform, or especially on LinkedIn. When LinkedIn Live came around, I applied a couple of times. Got denied once, but then got snarky and said, you guys don't even have a process for how you bring people into LinkedIn Live. There's no criteria. But before getting this LinkedIn Live, I had to put myself out there to show that I was engaged with the platform. I was putting videos out there, that I was posting out there,
right.
and had some great help from a friend and colleague, Fanny Dunnigan.
Who's great.
She's someone great to connect with, and can help up the video game, help you kind of create content strategy, stuff like that. And so after I sent that snarky comment to LinkedIn, I looked the next day and I had LinkedIn Live access. So I'm one of the lucky ones. Though more and more starting to get it. I think we're probably, by the end of the year, it will be like Facebook Live, where everything is, anyone can do it. So I think it's important to try to be ahead of the curve, put out good content, and talk to good folks like you that can share experience, share thoughts on the, on human resources, on recruiting as a whole. So it's, and I'm excited to do this because I get to meet people I've never, you and I, we shook hands once at the HR Southwest Conference.
That's right.
Back in Fort Worth in October, whenever it was October.
Yeah.
And we connected by email to say, hey, would you be on the show? But, I think that having folks like you that can kind of share their experiences from different perspectives goes a long way, and it helps the audience. And so the goal is to help educate the audience, allow people to engage and participate. So, but good question. All right, so rapid fire question time. Gonna ask a few of these here. So, you ready?
Yep, I'm ready.
All right. Favorite movie?
The Godfather, hands down.
Right. Favorite quote?
A smooth sea never yielded a skilled sailor.
There you go. Favorite food? Sorry.
Ooh, boy, that's a tough one. It's probably neck and neck between barbecue and beef fajitas with a salted with a margarita, but I'd have to go with beef fajitas.
What's your favorite barbecue place?
These days, Pecan Lodge.
Pecan Lodge is good, and there's some other folks that are kind of coming on the block here. Dallas is starting to get some pretty good competition with Austin.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Franklin barbecue is the best in Austin.
Franklin, have you ever tried Cadillac barbecue? They only serve on like Fridays.
No, thank you. I'll have to add that to my list.
You got to line up for that, like early, like camp out almost.
Nice.
And then what impact do you want to have on HR and recruiting in 2020?
Oh, wow. I'll extend this beyond Kirby Smith. I guess I just want to continue to elevate the profession. I think there's a lot of misperceptions out there about what HR is and the value that HR brings, and so I think the more that we can do things like this and be social and get the word out and share kind of our thoughts and opinions and about how we're leveling up and elevating the HR profession, I think just helps us. It helps us build credibility with our operation partners and with all the people that we work with, and just business in general.
Brian White said there are rivals to the Franklin, but it is probably King. Yes, you're probably right. So, but yeah, no, I like where you're going in that thought process with what you see for the future. So, so I'll ask everybody on the platform now or watching this to share this with your networks. Feel free to keep adding comments. Hit the like button. Share with your friends. Do whatever you need to do. We'll be on next week around 11 o'clock with friend and colleague Bradley Richardson as we talk more about recruiting and some other stuff that he's working on that's actually really interesting. So, Seth, I asked you to just hang on a minute. I'll end the broadcast, and then you and I'll wrap up. So, thanks everybody. Appreciate you joining us, and we'll see you next Tuesday at 11 o'clock.